crossover. Oh, killer crossover.
Just crossover. It just crossed him over nastily.
Another victim to the crossovers. Cross him up and sit him down.
Time for the crossover powered by Everlevel Concrete Repair in Omaha at everlevelconcrete.com.
Is this what I get for being on the wrong side?
Yes, it's bad over there.
Josh, are your
going
headphones
on over
always
there?
trash on this
It
side?
makes no sense to me sitting over there. I always feel uncomfortable. It doesn't.
What's wrong with the headphones?
The headphones, the headphone jack is kind of.
By the way, I got a little bit of an echo.
That's a little bit. That's a
Help
little
Josh. Help our boy out.
Are you on the top one, John, or the bottom one? There we go. Thank you, Odson.
Okay.
Are you plugged in, John? On the top
He
one or
was on the
bottom?
top
Went
and
to
now
the
he's on the
bottom.
bottom.
Yeah, you have to plug in the bottom one. The top one is garbage.
Okay. Are you back?
I mean, I could hear, but it was just very annoying.
And then the camera with the buttons,
Yeah.
and it's just the whole workflow is wrong.
The workflow is wrong, but I just,
It takes a tougher man to work on that side of the desk. Is what's going on.
You're just used to it.
yeah, exactly. You're just a fool.
I've been there for a decade.
Chance says, so there is a crossover.
Yeah, didn't you listen to the tease? Connor said in the crossover's next.
I always say that. Right.
I told him earlier that there wasn't going to be one.
I asked my dear friend John Bishop during one of the breaks, so what should I do? Are we going to do a crossover? He's like, you know what? I'd love to chat.
I mean, I'm already here.
Yesterday, you guys were like, I won't have enough time to get my football takes out if we do a crossover.
That was you, Josh. That's what you said.
That's what John said. I asked John. I said, "Hey, should we
no,
put on the crossover?" And you were like, "He was like, yes, we have so many things to do. We have to talk about the Army game, Army and Notre Dame."
Hey, it's a great game. Both teams better than Nebraska and
Much.
Wisconsin.
Much.
Hey, no lies detected there.
Once
John.
upon a time, Nebraska Wisconsin would have been one of the highlight games on the schedule. Now it's like
oh, man.
37th out of what, 50 some odd games. It's not good.
When's the last time
Okay.
it was?
Probably the time they
20
opened the Big Ten against each other in
No,
2011.
hey, 2016, it was two top 10-ish
Two
teams.
top 10 teams.
Yeah, but no one was paying attention then because it was Game 4 of the World Series,
That's true.
I was there.
which is where I was.
All right, so last time they were both ranked was obviously that day.
Yeah.
Wisconsin was ranked in 17. They were ranked number 9. The year after they were 16. The year after they were 15. The year after they were 19.
But where was Nebraska?
You could just generally assume that Nebraska was trying to fight to get to 6 wins at each of those points.
Yeah.
So not
That
it has
game-
not one of the marquee games on the schedule for a long time.
It's sad. It's really sad.
It is.
Hey, where's your producer?
It's great. I don't know. I don't know.
Is he okay?
He's here. I've
We've
been in
talked
the
to him
building
today.
all
He
morning.
seems like he's in a good mood today.
Yeah. You know what
Is
he's
he?
probably doing? He's working on his overly outlined graphics.
He
I
did.
bet you that's what he's
He
doing.
did not seem like he was in a good mood this morning.
Did Feast Week come up again?
No, he
No.
was just. I just walked in, and he's usually there for a good hello and to say something that he saw on Reddit, but it was very silent.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to Josh because I subscribe to 1620 the email.
It's a
I don't
great
know if
email.
I can say that about all of my coworkers, but I can say that I do.
Who's he
indeed.
calling out?
Well, come
Yeah,
on, guys.
who's he
You got to
calling
subscribe
out?
to our own email.
I subscribe.
I subscribe.
Okay, because nobody else noticed the title of the email today was Feast Week has arrived.
I noticed.
And in the body it said, "We love a feast this time of year, don't we, folks? Today we allow you to gorge yourself on basketball." Made me laugh very, very hard.
Just trying to create a topical, relevant email for our listeners.
Trying to create. Oh, there it is.
Tis
Yeah.
the
Content.
season. It's
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
There it is.
What kind of content was in there?
So much.
Was yesterday's crossover in there? Because that would have been fun.
No.
Well, here we go. Happer, feast on this. Our friends at Circuit Resort and Casino want to send you and a friend to every home conference game this season for the Creighton Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Is this
How
true?
badass is that? Happer,
That's really cool.
Wash your blues away. And it mentions that you and I are doing overreaction tomorrow. Though you get first billing on this. That's very interesting.
Really?
Fascinating. On the graphic I get.
That means I get to sit in the good chair with the good headphone jack?
Yeah, that's what you did. Well, we'll be on a cross train, so it doesn't really matter.
I mean,
We'll be a cross
yeah.
train.
Why
And
can't
then
Connor be the top billing?
Yeah, I did. When we did the Rutgers game and I was watching the Royals at the same time,
Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, what will you be distracted by tomorrow?
It's a great
Army,
question.
Navy,
Army, Notre Dame,
Army, Notre Dame.
America's team.
I love baseball. I love watching things at Yankee Stadium.
Yes, you
during
do.
Big Red
Oh my
overreactions.
gosh. Well, Army gets screwed over like the Royals did on that call at second base.
Exactly. People are
Yes,
wondering.
he can.
By the way, we got an email from Colin in White Plains.
Oh, hello.
Said, how dare you pick against the Army? I'll be at Yankee Stadium watching my alma mater sticking that shillelagh up Notre Dame.
Oh,
Wow. Okay, this is quite vulgar, but I like it. Go Army is the end of the message.
So
from Colin.
I have
That's
said all week
awesome.
long that I think Notre Dame is going to win and Notre Dame is going to roll. But John has, Army. So let's get ready. Predictions, which we're going to do in like an hour.
I
and a half.
have not said once this week that Army was going to win.
Oh, interesting.
I
Already
haven't.
walking it back. Already
haven't walked
leaving
anything
our
back.
Army behind.
I haven't
What is
walked
that
anything
called
back.
when the soldier leaves? You
AWOL?
get what? No, there's like a term for it though. When you leave specifically.
Desertion.
John is being a deserter, all ready for Army. Chop his head off like in Game of Thrones.
Such an odd person.
I'm very normal. What do you mean?
No, you're very not normal.
If Notre Dame wouldn't have beat the crap out of Navy, I would have picked Army to cover. But I did. But they
yeah,
didn't.
you
I mean,
remember that game.
Army
Yeah.
has a chance to cover. I mean, if they can slow the game way
just
down.
don't turn the ball over like Navy did.
They don't turn the ball over. That's the thing. That's one good thing the Army does. They don't turn the ball over.
So is Army gonna wreck Navy when they play each other in a couple weeks in a game that
But
definitely matters?
What's going to be wild is our Army somehow finds a way to win. They win the conference championship game.
And then
They get in the playoff
and they
because
lose.
and then they lose to Navy.
It's possible.
It is possible.
It's very much possible.
God.
And then Army goes
What is
on to
wrong
win
with
the
us?
national championship, but Navy can claim that they have part of it.
They won the Army Navy game.
And America wins. America wins.
That would be the chaos theory for all chaos theories. I'm looking forward to some chaos in the Big 12 this weekend. Very excited about that.
Rock chalk.
Yeah. So what games will at Cross Train? They have a few TVs on Saturdays. Obviously, Happer, we're going to ask them to turn the Notre Dame Army game on. What else are we asking them to turn on tomorrow night? Are we wanting a little Alabama at Oklahoma?
There's
action?
not really a lot of great games tomorrow night.
Arizona State BYU's at 2:30. Kansas and Colorado's at 2:30.
Yeah, all the good games are at 2:30
Yeah,
and 11.
Honestly, Army Notre Dame is the only intriguing game unless there's an upset. But yeah, most of the night games are kind of
Army Notre Dame. I guess
Alabama getting playing with their food a little bit would be funny. I don't think they will, but that could be funny.
Could be funny. So there's that. There's the other SEC game, which is Texas A&M and Auburn, and then Iowa State and Utah.
Yeah.
And can I interest you in Boise State, Wyoming?
Yes.
You can't. I can interest you in
it
that?
a little, even though Wyoming is garbage.
They're
you can interest
horrible.
me in it a little, but they're playing in altitude. People forget about Wyoming. It's the highest altitude.
Doesn't everyone in that conference play at altitude?
Boise's pretty high.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Wyoming is higher. Happer. Wyoming is.
They are actually. I think he's right.
Poll question: is Wyoming higher?
Oh, hi, Nick.
Hello.
YouTube user says USC versus UCLA is tomorrow night. I think it is,
That's
but it's
9:30.
9:30.
Late.
We're gonna be out of there.
So sadly, all of you waiting to laugh your brains out watching Saturday Night Live, the funniest show in the history of mankind, are going to be very disappointed when you see the Bruins and the
The
Trojans.
sun
You
will
see,
be
whoa!
set behind the San Gabriels already.
Will they let the Michael Che and the other guy, Colin Jost, do the halftime show at least?
That's funny.
So they can
Not a
get
bad
weekend
idea.
update, college football style.
Hey, here's a question. Whoa, it's Saturday Night by Fall Out Boy. Will they have two versions of that tomorrow, or just for the Big Ten game at 9:30?
I don't care.
Oh, it's Saturday night. I
No,
love singing.
I don't
that
think
song,
that's a
Josh.
Fall Out Boy song.
No,
But they sing it.
Here comes Saturday night. Yeah, it is.
They're the ones who sing it. Nick.
Saturday night.
Oh wait, I'm thinking of a different. Am I thinking of a
Are you
different?
thinking
song?
of Panic at the Disco?
That's Panic at the Disco. They did that a couple years
It's
ago.
Saturday
Yeah,
night.
they don't use that
okay.
anymore. The Big
Yeah.
Ten.
Here comes Saturday night. Thank
Yeah.
you, Happer. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes. That's fall.
yeah. I did know Fall Out Boy was involved with NBC. I did know that.
There you go.
All right.
Is that it?
Yeah.
All right.
You're kicking him out already.
Well, we
after
gotta- we-
giving me. You gave me grief. and
We
now
have a
you are
short
kick-
show. We have a shorter show
I was
today.
having a good
People
time.
forget.
I wanted to keep talking to Happer.
You got all day tomorrow. You guys, you know what,
We're gonna
Josh?
spend-
You can go 4 hours if you want on Big Red Overreaction.
We're gonna
Happer and I will
spend
go 4 hours on Monday and Tuesday. and
way
Wednesday.
too much time together over the next 6 days. This is going to be bad.
You mean you're not going to promise a 4-hour overreaction if Nebraska clinches a bowl game? I mean, you're going to have to at least go into the field and get Odson's, reports from Great China Buffet at least 5 times.
Hey, if they win tomorrow, John, you want to join us live from it could be like a locker room show. We have John Bishop live in the locker room giving us exclusive.
Oh, there you go.
I'm not going to be in the locker room.
Yeah, nobody's
John
in the
Bishop
locker
live in the
Nobody
post-game
has to
press
know that,
conference.
John. It's called theater of the mind. Just go into your
Yeah.
bathroom. It sounds like a
Remember
locker
Orson
room.
Welles,
I
John?
haven't
Remember his
decided yet if
theater of
I'm
the
going to
mind?
the game or not.
Oh, I thought you were.
I don't know yet because, I'm
Easy.
leaving on Sunday and
Yeah.
going to be gone for a damn week.
Not yeah, that's not.
So we'll see. I'm trying to think. I don't think I have been in the building personally for a Wisconsin game yet. It seems like every time the Wisconsin game comes around, there's been a Cubs playoff game, a Cubs playoff game, a Cubs playoff World Series game.
Nice. Big
What
red
about
overreaction.
What about 2019, John, when Bill Moose gave Scott Frost that contract? What happened that day?
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, remember that? We woke up to the news that Scott Frost, a losing coach in
Wo-
Nebraska, was
woke?
given an extended
Maybe
contract or something.
I don't
very
remember
cool.
that game. What happened in that
It
game?
was called Nebraska got smashed.
Well,
I
yeah,
thought they covered the spread in that game in 2019.
I don't think I was there.
Yeah.
I don't think I was
I
there.
watched it
I
at a
don't think
party.
I have been in the building.
Though you know what?
for
I might have had to,
Wisconsin.
John, you know what? I wonder if we had overreaction that day because
We might
I think
have.
I was at a friend's house for the first half and then I had to go to the studio.
I
for the
think
second
you're
half.
right. I think we had overreaction that night.
37-21. They lost.
I think they barely covered.
I don't remember anything about that game. Let's go to the Husker Max.
They rushed. Who is the running back? Jonathan Taylor. I think he rushed for 200 and something yards. Though he always rushed for.
Was that the
200
game?
something
Was that
yards.
the game? Was there a kickoff return for TD in that game? by
Oh,
Wisconsin?
Crookshank.
Did Crookshank? Was that game?
Let me look at the box.
Are we at Husker Max Happer? Let's do it.
Yeah, Crookshank, 89-yard kickoff return.
There was a Creighton game that night. That's why.
Bang.
What was the date?
That would be November 16th.
Yeah, there was a Creighton game that night because I remember driving to Omaha, listening to the last quarter of that game. So
Jack Cohn, Wisconsin's quarterback.
maybe
Jack
that's the
Cohn.
reason why they haven't won is I haven't been in the building. If Nebraska, if you want to pay me a lot of money, I'll show up.
Wow.
There you go.
I'll show up just for you.
Jeez.
What did the writers say about that game, Happer? I guess we got to go. Sorry.
I'll give you some poll quotes.
Yeah,
I
just
guess.
give us a couple pulls.
All right, let's go to Sipple. Bullied to Nebraska for hanging around
Oh,
and
jeez.
making the afternoon mildly interesting.
He said bully.
for you.
But when the dust cleared, it felt incredibly normal. Here is Dirk Chatelain, still of writing at the time.
Yeah.
Frost and Martinez still appear completely committed to each other, like a father and a son. As for the defense, well, Frost delivered a post-game message that sounded more like a description of stepchildren. Frost hated the defense, but he loved Adrian.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well,
See ya.
Connor, we'll see you down at the arena.
Yep. Just a little while.
Yep. Just a little while.
Josh,
Yeah,
good luck.
Happer.
Have a great call.
Thank you, Happer. That's very nice of you. Have
And
a
we
good
will
time tonight on Jay's Live.
I will.
we'll be back to get the Grums started. It's a short one today because it's rivalry day on 1620 The Zone. Well, once again, we play our dangerous game. A game against our old adversary. 6 wins in a bowl game. Give me a ping, Mr. Priscilli. 1 ping only, please. How about give me a win? Win one for the Gipper today, please.
University of Nebraska football is on the air.
You know, and I've encouraged them not to shy away from the gravity of this, to lock into and lean into it. And, you know, the only way out is to go through it. So they've got to bust through this week.
It's who's going to be calling plays. Why does it matter?
You can feel it everywhere, but the party time all over tonight.
You're just kind of looking for everybody to kind of rally together.
Friday night, a great night of football.
Do what must be done. Do not hesitate. Serve us.
Friday night, a great night of football.
We'll break through and we'll win.
Back and relax and let's get down to. It's gonna be a hell of a fight. We got a great night of football tonight.
In the Bible, they talk about those who stand in the gap. They've stood in the gap here.
Oh, everybody needs more body contact once in a while.
They've taken some shots for it too, you know, and they're still here, they're still standing. And so
you got to grab the chance to run wild.
I'm not changing. How about that one, man?
Joke! Sit back and relax and let's get down to it. It's gonna be a hell of a fight. We got a great night of football tonight.
Martinez to the end zone. Touchdown.
In this prime time zone.
Oh, that defense is coming.
Every time will is a rum.
And holy tomato, did he give him a show? Hot about it. What a run that was.
This is for the ball game right now. Everybody's stacked up close for Nebraska. Ball hitting the backfield. The ball is out. Nebraska's got it, and they'll have the ball game.
Because he was looking at Alonzo Whaley, the linebacker from the backside, who shot through there unblocked.
The Cats and the Stallions are ready to do it. Friday night, a great night of football. Sit back and relax and let's get down to it. It's gonna be a hell of a night.
Oh, but tonight it's a great night for basketball. I-80 Rivalry style. As the Blue Jays and the Huskers renew acquaintances, not once, but twice, starting at 4 o'clock. So, we're all going to be winners this weekend, right? I mean, some of us might be bigger winners than others, if you know what I mean. Anyway, welcome to the show, everyone. Abbreviated show today because Josh will have the call. He is already there at Sokol Arena getting ready for the first of the 2 showdowns, Creighton women, Nebraska women, 4 o'clock here on 1620 The Zone. And then I'll be at CHI tonight for the men's game in the 58th renewal of the I-80 Rivalry. Can't wait. It's kind of unfortunate this thing's got to happen, during a football weekend because it loses some of its luster with all the attention paid to the football team. People forget Nebraska volleyball plays their best rival, Wisconsin, this weekend. So, man, we've just packed everything into this week. Some might call it a feast weekend.
Sounds like it has something to do with basketball to me.
Well, it does have to do with basketball. I mean,
oh, interesting. I thought Feast Week wasn't about basketball.
Well, but it's not about basketball. It's just what they call it. It's, they could call it
because of basketball.
No, because it's Thanksgiving.
And there's basketball on Thanksgiving that week.
Well, like we said, it's going to be a concentrated show, a concentrated Grum today. Our Grum Down is presented by the referees at John Higgins Weather Guard. Friday night's a great night for Rivalry.
Nice.
Can either blue or red sweep? Right now, if you were to ask the experts, I think the favorites would be the Huskers on the women's side and the Blue Jays on the men's side. But does one team have it in them to take both games? Imagine the bragging rights that would be. We have a line for both games or for one? Nice. What is the line, by the way? Well, see, didn't we say it was 10.5 for the men last night? Is it still 10.5? Okay. Okay. For the women's game, I'm going to go with Nebraska minus 6.5.
You are wrong. And Nick, I have an echo now. It is Creighton minus 3.5.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow, I thought Nebraska would be favored.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Creighton minus 3.5.
Okay. Well, if you want to make your bets,
there you go.
there you can wager on both games. I like.
Nice.
Well, that'll be fun. Also, as we will establish a little bit later on, Jameis and Jesus are greater than the Steelers.
Oh, interesting. Gotta love the first snow game of the year, man.
Oh, it was glorious.
I've never seen somebody so excited for snow.
I've never seen anyone excited for both Jesus and snow.
It's interesting how much fun the Browns are to watch when they don't have a bad person as their quarterback.
It's funny because some people used to consider
him,
Jameis as a bad person.
Yeah,
I guess he's rehabbed.
Yeah, Nick, Google Jameis Winston, and you'll find some stories about him as well.
But is he
Not
worse?
No,
Okay.
no.
He's not
even
been accused of
close.
anything anywhere near what Deshaun Watson has.
Okay.
Can Indiana shock the world tomorrow afternoon? We'll preview that and a couple other college games of the week. Who has it worse long term? Is it Nebraska or Wisconsin? I mean, forget about just this year, but who has it worse long term? Because neither program's going to move on from their coach, but they're certainly going to be changing things up. Who knows what Nebraska's going to look like on offense next year? Who knows what Wisconsin's going to look like on offense next year? I think it's a fascinating question.
It's a really interesting question because neither of these places are very happy with their current coaches. But I would say that Wisconsin, it seems like things are in a bit more of a precarious state for the Badgers, at least from afar, though maybe a lot of their fans would say the same thing about Nebraska.
We will have our key party, keys to the game, on Saturday. We'll have our predictions for the weekend. And again, it's a Blue Jays versus Huskers doubleheader right here on the Zone. Women's game coming up 3:45 pregame, and then the men's game at 7 o'clock, both here on 1620 The Zone and 1019 The Keg. 402-951-1620 is the 42 degrees the source hotline by your mom's house. You can also hit us up on the J-Tech Construction Zone Twitter page. We'll get a poll question up during the break. Pick us a winner, Bobby, between Nebraska and Wisconsin. And if you want to hit us up in the email, you can at john@1620thezone.com or josh@1620thezone.com. It is the Equitable Bank inbox. At Equitable, we take banking personally and answer the phone on the first ring. So if you missed it last night, and I missed this, I must not have been home in time to see this, but Kaylee Hartung was on the sidelines interviewing Jameis Winston before kickoff of the Browns-Steelers game last night. And here is what Jameis had to say. He was in his bag last night.
You have said you don't become a Brown until you beat the Steelers.
First, I got to set this up.
Okay.
First of all, Kaylee Hartung is like 4'5", and Jameis is like 6'5". I mean,
He's a very tall person.
There's a giant difference between these two. But as she is asking the question, Jameis standing very tall and just kind of looking off in the distance and just kind of breathing in such a way where it's like, I'm working something up. I'm working something up. It looks kind of sermon-y. It looks like a preacher, like the big dramatic choir music is coming to an end, and the minister or the preacher sitting up at the pulpit, and he's ready to go, but he's just kind of psyching himself up. He's psyching himself up, and this is the genius that he gave us.
You have said you don't become a Brown until you beat the Steelers. What will it take tonight?
The horse is prepared for battle, but victory comes from the Lord. So I'm dependent on the Lord.
Is that the message to the team?
Day by day, one play at a time. That's the message.
Weather conditions tonight. We're expecting winds up to 15 miles per hour in a wintry mix. How will that impact your ability to throw the ball?
I am so happy and grateful that the Lord has blessed me to play in some snow, to be in true football weather in Cleveland, Ohio at Huntington Bank Field today to give him the glory. It's a beautiful day.
Sure feels like you're playing in the AFC North.
It is. It's magical. Thank you.
Look at the sparkle in his eyes.
The way his face changed when she asked him the snow question, he stood there and just gave one of those big grins like a child. I'm so blessed that the Lord has blessed me with snow. And then he gets the sponsor name in for the stadium.
Amazing. Every game, every time now, he spoke a few weeks earlier. It was before the first start, right? And he had something very, very similar to that.
Well, it was after they beat the Ravens. They did a sideline or did a field report with him, and it was the same way. I mean, he was
odd duck, man.
And the crazy thing was that game got better, not just because it snowed. I mean, the visual was awesome, but the game got better as it snowed. I mean, just the physical game. The teams were moving the ball. There was drama. There was, offense. Neither team could do anything until it started snowing.
I saw somebody set the Jameis touchdown in slow motion to My Hero by Foo Fighters.
John, when they went up by 12, I looked at Riss and I said, this game's over.
Because I thought so too.
And I thought that was an awesome call to go for the 2-point conversion. Instead of going up by 11, if you miss it, you're up by 10, so you're still up by 2 scores.
Right.
If you get it, you're up by 11, and so that is, in theory, touchdown, 2-point conversion, and a field goal. To go up by 12, you forced them to get 2 touchdowns. And wouldn't you know it, Pittsburgh go right back down the field, a takeaway within a couple of plays, and then they score another touchdown. And by that point, I'm thinking, okay, well, this game is over again. And then the Browns do it, and I don't know what you thought, John, on the touchdown play by Jameis. I can't believe he didn't get sacked. I thought for sure they were about to get him in their grasp.
Yeah.
Nope, broke through, dove, got turned around in the end zone. What a fun game. I love the first snow game of the year.
The biggest break of that game was the officials calling it illegal touching instead of grounding. Because if it had been grounding on that last drive, the ball would have been back near the 40-yard line and they would have lost the down. Instead, it was 5 yards, and there was a little confusion there as, Tomlin initially was going to decline it, and it was going to be 4th and 2. Instead, he takes it. It's 3rd and 7. They convert the 3rd and 7. That continues the drive. But if that play is grounding, which you could have easily called, then the ball's back at the 40, and it's 4th and forever. And then the Browns are screwed because they almost have to go for it because there's no way they're going to kick it from that distance at that point. Now, I mean, the ball did – I mean, the ball did touch the lineman. He kind of reached for it. But in theory, that almost should have been grounding because, I mean, he was dead to rights. They had him sacked, and he just let it go. So they caught a huge break there by the lineman touching the ball, and that kept it alive. And, they ended up winning the game. So
sorry you can't do your little thing today. I know you're really bummed about it.
Well, but the horses are ready, and the Lord has blessed us, and we're ready.
That's true.
To go. All right, 402-951-1620, 42 degrees, the Source hotline. We got a lot to come and a short time to get there, so we'll be back right after this on 1620 The Zone. Rivalry Day, Creighton, Nebraska on 1620 The Zone. Want to get to a couple of things in this segment. Briefly touch on the men's game tonight. One of the biggest keys I see in tonight's game is how is it played and how is it called? We've seen the difference in the past. This is a classic clash of styles, even though Fred Hoiberg would like to do things a little bit more like Creighton, go 5 wide at shooting, play with some pace. The way they're built, a little more physical than Creighton is, but that comes at a price, obviously, maybe not as quick. So how are they going to be able to chase Creighton shooters? But how the game is called, Nebraska has, in their first 4 games, they've attempted 25 or more free throws. First time they've done that in 4 straight in 30 years. They are 6th in the country in getting free throw points or getting points at the free throw line. And, of course, they're playing a team in Creighton that currently fouls at a rate that is even better than last year when they led all of college basketball. And they're allowing opponents to score just 9.8% of their points at the free throw line versus last year where it was 12% of the time. So that number's come down. And interestingly enough, Berke Bjunktengel has 10 of his 10 points from the free throw line, 29 from the floor, so about a quarter of his points. Andrew Morgan scored 13 points in the line in 4 games, but 15 from everywhere else. And when you look at Bryce Williams, who's been the leading scorer in 2 of their games, 44 points from the field, 31 points from the free throw line. So it's quite an interesting percentage. So if Nebraska is able to grind it, if Nebraska is able to drive into Creighton and get the whistle and get to the free throw line, obviously that has been their recipe for the first 4 games. If they're unable to do that, then that's where you've got to make up for it at the 3-point line or, just shooting overall better from the field, period. And, we saw that was the recipe to success 2 years ago when Derek Walker was able to get points in the paint against Ryan Kalkbrenner. It was arguably one of Kalkbrenner's worst games. I want to say Walker started like 6 out of his first 7 in that game and ended up like 10 of 12 or 10 of 13 in that game, the upset 2 years ago. So I think it's going to be an awesome clash of styles tonight. And obviously as the 3-point shot goes, usually is how Creighton goes. Interesting though, last year they attempted the exact same number of threes as they did in the loss in Omaha to last year in Lincoln. The difference was they made 4 more of them. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 12 more points, which would have been the difference in winning in 2022. And obviously, it contributed to the 29-point win last year.
Turnovers forced per game, and they're they're holding their opponents to sub 40% overall, 35% from 3. You mentioned it. I think that the story of this game is Creighton able to get out and run? Greg McDermott talked about that earlier this week. Have to use our speed is what he said. That's the dealing factor for us. Are they able to get out and run? Is Nebraska able to to knock down some shots and get into that free throw line, man? Because they have been very much reliant on knocking down free throws. And not only, John, have they shot a ton of them, they also have a really good percentage from the free throw line.
Yeah, they're close to 80%.
It's one thing to go to the free throw line 30 times, but there's a difference between making 20 of them and making 27 of them. And so if they're able to get to the free throw line and continue to knock them down, I feel like that is a recipe for success for them. If Creighton is able to move up and down the floor, knock in some threes, I just think it's going to be really, really hard. I don't like Nebraska's offense right now. I know one of the things that you've been hitting on for really the last week and a half is just this is going to be a different type of matchup than the ones that Creighton has seen so far this year. Nebraska began with a couple of bye games, and then they played St. Mary, so they have played, the tougher opponent. That is the best opponent that either of these 2 teams have played this year. Otherwise, it's a lot of those bye games. I think it's a really, really interesting matchup, though, when you look at the styles and the way in which each of these teams is going to try to play this evening at CHI.
More on the men's game. We'll have a between-game show tonight between the women's game and the men's game. Jimmy Allen will have that for however long it lasts. Depends on how long the women's game goes. And then we'll have pregame coverage from CHI starting at 6:30 with tip-off at 7:01 tonight between the Creighton and Nebraska men. Meanwhile, back to the football side of things, the question about who would you rather be at this moment? This was a question that was asked in the side-by-side story this week, bylined by Mitch Sherman of The Athletic and Jesse Temple of The Athletic, who cover the two teams, Nebraska and Wisconsin, respectively. And the poll question they asked at the end of that story was, which program would you rather be long-term, looking really towards next year and beyond? And 54% voted Nebraska, 46% voted Wisconsin. So fairly close. And you would have to anticipate this was probably read by, maybe equal percentages, Nebraska and Wisconsin fans. But 54% said they would rather be Nebraska. Both coaches in their second year, both coaches certainly, I would say, underachieving in year two.
Very much so.
Considering where their expectations were. Maybe Nebraska a little bit more, believe it or not, than Wisconsin, especially given what Matt Rule was talking, how he was talking before the season and the way things started. At least with Wisconsin, it's a little understandable because they took the big loss to Alabama. They lost Tyler Van Dyke. They lost Ches Malusi to the transfer portal. He shut it down after 2 or 3 games. And so it's a little bit understandable with Wisconsin. But as Nebraska was starting to hit the downslide, Wisconsin had those 2 big wins in the middle of the season against Northwestern and Rutgers and thought they were on the comeback trail, but now they've been on the slide. It's a fascinating question. When I voted, I voted Nebraska, but it wasn't by much because there's a lot of mystery right now about where these two programs are going, and it all starts with where they're going to be on offense. We think Nebraska has its answer, but it's not guaranteed. We don't know exactly where it's going to go.
And we don't know.
And even if it does go to Dana Holgerson, Wisconsin literally just fired their air raid disciple last week. And the big reason why was it doesn't work here. So Nebraska is literally zigging where Wisconsin is zagged. Now the Badgers, who knows what they're going to do offensively beyond this year.
Who's their OC going to be moving forward? Who's going to be calling their plays?
Good
I would
question.
also ask this, how much of the staff for each of the offenses will be held over? Nebraska at the very least is going to have a new coordinator next year. I think that they will have a new running backs coach next year as well. I don't think they'll have a new wide receivers coach, and I don't think they'll have a new offensive line coach. And so then it comes down to some of those other spots. I think I'm with you. Honestly, man, I'm kind of down bad on both of these programs right now. Here's a question, and we don't have enough time for it today, but in 2026, how many of the 2 head coaches are both of them there? Is one of 2 there? Are neither of them there? By 2027, how much would that change your answer on both, neither, or one? That's kind of where my mind is at right now. I've been making the Bill Callahan comparisons all year long with Luke Fickell. It's very uncomfortable, very awkward. And you're right. Nebraska brings in the air raid as Wisconsin moves on from the air raid, a hiring that a lot of people push back because you can't use the air raid and win in the Big Ten Conference. You can't. And the issue is not, in my opinion, it's not you can't win with that offense. It's you're Wisconsin or you're Nebraska, you are not able to recruit the types of players you need to succeed. It's not that offense doesn't work. Ohio State could make the air raid work, but Nebraska, can they? Can Wisconsin? I think we know the answer for sure on the latter, and it's no.
Yeah, there will be a challenge, but you mentioned something there with Wisconsin's coaching staff or Nebraska's coaching staff. There's a very good chance that every coordinator is changed out. And that's a lot of turnover.
That is crazy.
That's a lot of turnover in a situation where you're going to be losing out on 2 of your anchors on the defensive line. You lose a couple offensive linemen. You don't know what the future holds, for skill position players. Obviously, Malachi Coleman sounds like he's on the outs. Certainly is going to be an off-season speculation, which we all anticipated was going to happen anyway, just simply because you have a 5-star quarterback and you never know who's going to be bidding on that.
Throw in Corey Barney. I
But
mean, there's a
both
lot of
teams,
players.
though, are recruiting well. I mean, Wisconsin's got a top 25 class currently. Nebraska's got a top 25 class currently, so they have that working for them. But
yeah, Jeremiah Jones, literally at this moment, John, one of the Nebraska commits, he just tweeted out that he is not flipping. So
okay,
there you go.
And you have I lost my train of thought there, but there's a lot of moving pieces. That's what I was going to mention, the 105 roster limit. How much that I think I'm not as familiar with Fickell's building process as I am with Rules, but I think that is going to have a massive impact on Matt Rules. He's going to have to really, think about how he's going to do things from that standpoint. And while it will affect everybody, not sure what that impact's going to be on Luke Fickell. So a lot of things there. All right. When we come back, we are going to do a quick preview of Indiana and Ohio State.
Oh, okay.
With a lot on the line. And as we go to break, we are going to we're going to tell you that we have, what do we have, 4?
It's a 4-pack.
We have a 4-pack to the Blur Parties tailgate tomorrow at Memorial Stadium. This is where we've done our pregame shows from this year. A 4-pack to Blur Parties right underneath the overpass across from Memorial Stadium on the west side. So be listening. We're going to give those away next on 1620 The Zone.
Nick Grimm for Circus Sports Iowa. Happy Feast Week. It's that time of year where you chow down on all the college basketball games, and Circus Sports Iowa, your plate. Start with a first course of college basketball tonight. Tonight, the Circus Sports Tight Money Line Splits has Iowa at -165 over Utah State. The points total for tonight's I-80 rivalry, by the way, 152. People forget Feast Week isn't just about basketball. You can get your second and third helpings of games with college and pro football this weekend. Iowa, again, -170 to beat the Terps at Maryland, and FAU +125 over Charlotte. And on the pro side, my Dolphins -365 over the Patriots. Whatever you fill your plate with, Circus Sports Iowa will nourish you anywhere in the state of Iowa. And if you do win a lot, they won't punish you by limiting your account like some of the other guys. And their customer support is full of real-life people, no AI, no chatbots. Download your new sportsbook today. Download Circus Sports Iowa. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-238-7633.
All right, Blur Parties. We've got a 4-pack. If you would like to attend the tailgate tomorrow at the Blur Parties tailgate underneath the I-180 overpass across from Memorial Stadium, food, drink, TVs will be on, so if you want to watch the Indiana-Ohio State game or whatever else is going on, they got a big wall of TVs. It's a great time. They do an awesome job at Blur, and we're going to give away a 4-pack to caller number 10.
10.
Nice.
Right now, 402-951-1620. Caller 10 gets the 4-pack to Blur Parties tailgate from 1620 The Zone and Blur Parties. So, Indiana and Ohio State, the narrative game to beat all narrative games. It's hard for me, and sure, this is an unprecedented year. We've never had a 12-team playoff. We've never been in a circumstance like this. But this game has so much riding on it. And not just because it's Indiana, not just because they're undefeated, not just because they played a soft schedule, but also what it could mean if Ohio State loses. Ohio State's non-conference schedule was not great. There is a ton of 2-loss teams right now, many of them in the SEC. Now, while there's still possible other losses out there, what happens if the upset occurs? Does Ohio State all of a sudden find itself sitting on the playoff bubble, which sounds crazy, but it's certainly possible. Of course, both teams are playing for a crack at Indianapolis and the conference championship game as well, with Oregon already having clinched. So the narratives on this, Josh, are not just on the Indiana side, but there is a lot at stake here for Ohio State as well, the team that was expected. I mean, I don't even – what was their odds? I want to say it was like – wasn't it minus 1,000
to what
to make the playoff?
Oh yeah, it had to be. They probably were number one, just given that they're in the Big Ten Conference. Like I think it was them and Georgia who probably had the best odds or the lowest odds, highest odds, whatever you want to talk about, lowest odds to make the playoff. So let me answer your question with a question of my own. If Texas loses to Texas A&M, they would also be 10-2. Who do we think has the better resume in that scenario? Because I always forget, who is Texas's best win again? By the numbers, it's Oklahoma.
It's either Oklahoma or Vanderbilt.
See, I mean, like Ohio State still would have the Penn State win. I don't think that they are out if they lose this week.
I'm not saying they're out, but they certainly they're dangerously close to the bubble.
It would make next week a game. You know, we talk about narratives and how Nebraska's in their feels. Ohio State is very much in their own head with the game versus Michigan right now. If they lose tomorrow, next week's game is suddenly like ramped up times 1,000.
You know what it could come down to is, let's just pretend, let's say Ohio State loses, let's say Texas loses to A&M next week, and both teams go in, 10-2, neither team's playing for their conference title. One of the things that may be looked at is how they each played against Michigan. Texas already beat Michigan in the Big House, 31-12, dominated them. They may look at that Ohio State game. How amazing would that debate be between those two blue bloods if it came down to that? Now, would the committee allow it to come down to that, or would somebody else get pushed off to the side? Who knows? But there's a lot of different scenarios that could play out if those upsets happen.
I do want to, here's my question that I have about this game. And I guess not to go back to narrative again, I'm going to do it though. Like, is this the first of many of these types of seasons? Like Indiana, this run has been incredible, unprecedented. They're 10-0, first 10-win season of all time, and they still have 2 regular season games left, and then who knows what happens for them in the postseason. So this is turning into the best year that Indiana has ever had. Is this going to be something to expect year after year, where it's like a random team pops up because they get this great confluence of events in terms of schedule, and we're kind of debating them on their merits, on their logo, on their helmet? Or is this just so random, and the Big Ten just had such an odd year where Washington down season in year one, Michigan way down season in year one of a brand new coaching era, Nebraska, again, that is like the best defense that they have played on paper coming into this game, which is pretty wild because we know how inconsistent Nebraska can be. I just keep wondering if, like, are we going to be doing this every year? Are we going to be debating about a team like Indiana every year? Or is this just such a one of one that it will end up being a one and done?
Well, I think it could be a one and done, because I don't think it's going to be a 12-team playoff in a couple of years. I think it's going to move to 16. I think
Fair,
we're going to see guaranteed spots for the conferences. I think that's where we're eventually headed. And with the 105 limit coming next year, who knows, what that might change. So I'll say for now, it'll probably be a one-off only because I think the playoff format's going to change, but it'll be fascinating to watch. The other thing is going to be, looking at the X's and O's of this game, you've got Ohio State's banged up offensive line against what Indiana has developed as a great pass rush. They are 4th in the FBS in pass rush grade. Mikhail Camaro, one of the incoming transfers, leads the FBS with 53 pressures. Meanwhile, Ohio State's pass protection, after they lost Josh Simmons, a left tackle, they rank 115th in pass block grade. And now they've lost their center. And so you're going to put a lot more pressure on that offensive line with a really good Indiana pass rush. I think that's one avenue where I think Indiana could spring the upset. And then on the other side of the matchup, you have the Hoosiers, who have some of the best offensive grades, best passing grades in the country, going against one of the best defensive coverage grades in the nation. The one time that Ohio State's pass coverage was compromised was by Oregon, but it was on the edges. It was at the perimeter. It was outside the hash marks.
Yeah.
Inside the hash marks against those safeties, I mean, that's a no-fly zone for a lot of teams. And guess where Indiana has made a lot of its hay this year? Between the hash marks. So it's kind of in the teeth of what Ohio State does best in pass defense. I think those two sides of the ball, watching how Ohio State's able to protect against that pass rush, watching how Curtis Rourke is able to operate against that Ohio State secondary, that's going to be a very fascinating, play back and forth all day long in the horseshoe.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, one of the games that you and I have debated a lot the last 2 weeks is that Indiana-Michigan game. There's a part of me that thinks if Indiana's going to play well and they're going to win this game, because they played really good in the first half versus Michigan. They put up 17 points. They were moving the ball. I wonder if they got a little bit tight in the second half. They dropped a couple of passes that would have perhaps extended the lead. But it was also, John, the end of a long stretch of like the pressure building. Like they weren't like Oregon, who just got done with playing 8 games in a row, but because they had the off week before Nebraska, but they had played a lot of those games. They get a week off. They get a chance to get healthy. And one other thing, man, Ohio State and Michigan in this week for like a long time, the trend is take the team that they are playing because they are usually looking ahead to the next matchup. But what's interesting about it this year is that obviously this is the way better game or way more important game for Ohio State, at least in terms of college football playoff rankings and those types of things. So it's interesting. Normally, Ohio State, Michigan, they play, for lack of a better term, bums in the week before. Look who Michigan has tomorrow. It's Northwestern.
Yep.
Indiana, normally not in this spot. So I do wonder if that's going to play a part. And yet I can't help but think Ohio State, way more talented. They've been in games like this a million times. This is the 3rd time this season, John, that Ohio State has played in a matchup of 2 top 5 teams. And this is the first time ever for Indiana, basically.
Well, but look back 2 weeks ago. I thought they kind of, for the first time this year, they blinked. They seized up in the second half
Indiana.
against Indiana. They seized up against Michigan.
Yeah.
And Michigan got back in the game, and they had the ball with a chance to win late.
Yep.
And that was the first time it really felt like Indiana blinked. Now it's 60 minutes of it, and you're in a hostile environment. I want to say with Cignetti's cockiness and just his general demeanor that he'll have that team prepared. But you can never tell with 18 to 22-year-olds. They can be all over the place.
Yeah.
And what the atmosphere is like in that stadium, what Ohio State's mindset is like. If they're doing any peeking ahead, it is going to be a long day in the horseshoe. They cannot afford to do that because I think Indiana's got the chops to definitely keep this close. And then it comes down to which team makes mistakes. Who makes the most mistakes? And, if Ohio State gets a little jumpy, Indiana's the kind of team that could pounce and keep this close. This line has come down. It was down. It was 13, 14 points earlier in the week. It's down around 10 right now. So I think some of that's the offensive line issues. But, yeah, this will be the most interesting watch of tomorrow by far.
Hey, John, I know that we're about to do keys and whatnot, and this will not be a traditional last hour of the show. Do want to remind the folks, though, it is a One Beer Friday brought to you by our good friends at Cross Train. And so while I won't be enjoying anything in the next hour and you will not either, they can also or always let us know what they're drinking and maybe win a gift card.
That's right. Send us a pic of what you're drinking into the JTech Construction Zone Twitter page at USC 1620. Use the hashtag OneBeerFriday, and the boys will be at Cross Train tomorrow in La Vista for Big Red Overreaction.
Off of Portal Road.
Off of Portal
Road.
But yes, as Josh said, it's a condensed show. So the key party and predictions all coming up on 1620 The Zone. All right, the unusual short Friday show continues. Again, coverage of Creighton basketball coming up in about 40-ish minutes or so. Blue Jays and Huskers, round 1, the women. Later tonight, round 2, the men. Both games right here on 1620 The Zone. So with that, yeah, it's only barely 3 o'clock, and we're already getting into our picks.
What in the world is going on today, John? This is so strange.
It's a jam-packed weekend.
Yeah,
People
really
forget Nebraska and Wisconsin are playing in volleyball on Saturday night.
My God.
So if the game goes really bad at Memorial Stadium, you'll see a bunch of olds leaving so that they can migrate to the Devaney Center. Good luck getting there. But, yeah, that's all coming up. So it's a huge weekend. But let's get into the betting trends for this one. Nebraska and Wisconsin. The Badgers lead the series 13-4.
Are you okay?
It was.
Oh, my gosh.
It was 4-2 when the Nebraska Cornhusker, or excuse me, 3-2 when Nebraska joined the Big Ten Conference. Wisconsin holds a 10-game win streak in the series, which starts with the disastrous 70-31 loss in the 2012 Big Ten championship game, otherwise known as the Josh was drunk game.
Yes, I was.
That 10-game streak is the second longest by one conference rival over Nebraska, trailing only the 16-game losing streak the Huskers had to Oklahoma during the dark ages of 1943 through 1958. So there's a lot on the line today or tomorrow.
Isn't it wild, man, when this league, when Nebraska joined this league, how we viewed this matchup and what it was going to be, and it was going to be the rivalry and all of these things. And, I mean, both of the matchups with Wisconsin and Iowa have certainly turned sour. But this one turning into this where every year they win, and sometimes it's by 39 points and sometimes it's by 1 point. And it's been literally not literally, but mostly every score in between.
Against the spread, Huskers, even though they're 0-10 in their last 10 tries, they are 5-4-1 against the spread against the Badgers versus 2012. The over has hit in 5 of the last 6 and 7 of the last 10. The total on this one's at 42.5, so take that for what it's worth. K Ford has Nebraska 48th in his power rankings, Wisconsin 32nd, Nebraska a 43% chance of victory. And I don't know if it's coming up in the key party or not, but one thing that does stand out about the K Ford ratings, Nebraska has improved to 92nd in special teams. Wisconsin is 10th. So maybe bookmark that in case a big moment happens on the special team side of the ledger. On the Nebraska on Nebraska's points, Nebraska 5-4-1 against the spread. The spread differential is minus 26. They failed to cover by a half point last week. Under Matt Rule, Huskers are 5-7-1 against the spread at Memorial Stadium. Huskers have lost 8 straight November games at home and 4 straight in which they were the favorite, including the 27-20 loss earlier this month to UCLA. Nebraska has not won a November home game as a favorite since 2018 Michigan State in the Snow Globe game.
I was there.
The Huskers are just 4-6 straight up in home games, their last 10 home games, as a skinny favorite. A skinny favorite defined as 1 to 3 points. The wins came over the Michigan State Spartans, as we mentioned, Oregon in 2016, Michigan in 2012, and all the way back to Kansas in 2008. On Wisconsin's side of the points, Badgers are 4-6 against the spread. Their differential is plus 19.5 points. The over is 5-5 this season. The Badgers, in their last 10 road games as an underdog, are just 2-8 straight up and 3-7 against the spread. They did win 42-7 at Rutgers in their best game of the season as a 1.5-point underdog back on October the 12th. The only other win in the last 10 as an underdog came at Purdue as a 3.5-point dog in 2018. They won a scoring fest 47-44. The Badgers are 5-5 on the road in the month of November since 2019, with the under hitting in 5 of the last 6 November road games. And with that, it's time for the key party.
We have the best time at your party. Key party. Thank you very
All right, Josh.
Shall I take it away, John?
Please.
We begin with the first key, as you see on the screen. It's like a movie on cable. And right now, John, I'm talking about Nebraska.
Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, don't you dare. Don't you sully the greatest movie of all time.
But that's the movie that's always on cable. That and The Fugitive.
Yeah, I guess that is true. Can Nebraska's defense skip the bad parts but keep the good parts? Last week we discussed how they needed to get some takeaways, and they did. They had an interception. They had a fumble force that they recovered and should have scored a touchdown, John, but they got tripped by air, and they had a blocked field goal as well, which to me, for this discussion at the very least, it counts. So they turned those 2 real takeaways, 1 bonus takeaway, into a total of 10 points, and we know that 7 of those came on the pick 6 by the actor. And it ended up costing them, man. Like, if they were able to turn those other drives into more points, they certainly would have had a chance to force overtime, if not win the game outright. And so then you look at what the Wisconsin offense has done this year. Braden Locke, he has thrown 9 interceptions this season. I saw this stat. I don't know if it's good or bad for Nebraska, but 8 of those have come on throws between the hash marks. He has thrown a pick in every single start. And so in a game with fewer expected points, can they make that happen again on that side of the ball? You just had all of the trends and all of the numbers to look at in terms of the under hitting between these two teams. I'm going to stick on the defensive side of the ball for key number 2, and let's go with Big Ass Ty. Certainly a player that if they are going to force some of those turnovers, if they are going to have some of those takeaways, he could be a huge reason why. And I guess I'll ask this question: does he have a senior day moment in him? Because, man, this is coming against one of the best group of pass protectors that Nebraska has seen in the 2024 season. The offensive line for Wisconsin, just 11 sacks allowed on the year, second best in the entire conference, behind only Penn State. Joe Brunner, one of their guards, he has not allowed a sack in 321 pressure opportunities. Nebraska, on the other hand, they just had 1 last week. I think that was something that both of us mentioned in our key party in that game versus USC. Can they up that number against a group that is really, really difficult to get past? If so, I think Big Ass Ty Bat will be a big reason why. And maybe, man, we've talked about this now in Nebraska's offense for the last couple of weeks. Could the confusion, could the changes on the offensive side of the ball maybe hurt the Badgers just a little bit in this one, and maybe the miscommunication is there, and Nebraska's able to get a couple of sacks. So key number 2, Big Ass Ty. We will look at both offense and defense with key number 3, and we'll go with the Kendall Roy voice. Big shoes. But in this case, we're talking about big plays. Wisconsin and Nebraska, John, they have really done a poor job at getting big plays this season. Wisconsin, 30 plays of 20 yards or more, 5th worst in the entire country. Nebraska, on the other hand, not a whole lot better. They have 10 more plays of 20 or more yards. They have 40 on the season, which is just inside the top 100. And, man, I can't help but think about all of the plays on offense for Nebraska that have almost gone for large chunks. Sometimes it's because they are flagged on those plays. Other times it is because maybe they're unable to break a tackle. I think of a play last week where Dante Dowdell, he decides to go left. He should have gone right. Insert John's favorite political joke here, because if he does go right on that play, John, he's certainly gaining more yards, and maybe he is scoring a touchdown and finally getting what Matt Rule has been talking about since August, and that is like one of those big plays, especially on the ground. They had some missed throws against Ohio State, of course, a few weeks back as well. Wisconsin, on the other hand, as I mentioned, they are just really, really bad at getting those big plays. So keep Wisconsin from doing so. Make sure that they are consistently getting small plays. In Nebraska, can you finally break free? They had a few big plays last season. They had some big plays against Wisconsin in that matchup in Madison last season. Can they do so again tomorrow afternoon? Key number 4, whole go the OCO. 2 things. 1, and that is this, John, can the offense do the patented we got better from game 1 to game 2 that we talk about so often in football? And in this case, can they do so with the offensive coordinator calling plays? And then I go to something that Holgerson has talked about He talked about it earlier this week, and I know that a lot of us reacted to it. Can the wide receiver blocking continue in a way that was not happening 2 games ago and further back throughout the early part of the season? I'm definitely not expecting anything elite from this side of the ball, but maybe just getting a little bit better on that side of the ball, that just the communication being a little bit crisper on that side of the ball, and the wide receiver blocking being a little bit better. And that could allow for key number 3, and maybe you get a few more big plays. And finally, key number 5, heckle the Eckle. We do this every Thursday. Don't really mention it, though, a whole lot on Fridays, and I wanted to just dive into it a little bit more because we had the numbers on Thursday's show. Nebraska still, with all of the struggles this year, top 20 in terms of getting the ball inside of their opponent's 40-yard line. And look, that's not always on the offense, right? Sometimes it's going back to key number 1, and that's taking advantage of turnovers and takeaways when they begin drives inside of the 40. Either way, they are a top 20 team at having snaps inside of the 40. They are one of the worst teams in the entire country at finishing those drives. I think, and I'm guessing we all think, that yet again, this game is going to come down to 1 score. The last 3 years that these teams have played, Wisconsin has won by 7, 1, and 7 points. And last year, that 7-point win came in overtime. 63 points have been scored total in the last 2 meetings in regulation. Every single opportunity has to be taken advantage of. So get some takeaways again like you did last week. Big-ass Tide, you have a big senior day in you. Nebraska, limit them on the big play front and get some of your own. Can Holgerson and the offense take a little bit of a step forward? And finally, if you get inside of the red zone plus, finish those drives.
All right, my top 2 keys really are the most important in my vision for what I think is going to happen in this game, and that is you got to run the ball and you've got to stop the run. Even though these 2 teams either have been or are now air raid disciples, this is going to be a Big Ten West type football game. Neither of these teams pass the ball very well at this point. Both teams probably strength on defense might be their pass defense. Certainly it is for Wisconsin, and that's why for Nebraska offensively, they need to run the ball. The Badgers' run defense far below the Wisconsin standard that they have typically set. They rank outside the top 50 in the nation for the first time in six years. Only Purdue is a worse run defense in the Big Ten. And oh, by the way, against Purdue, Nebraska averaged 5 yards a carry for only the second time this season. It is also the last time they did it. I think 5 yards a carry is a reasonable goal and needs to be met if Nebraska is going to win on Saturday. In Wisconsin's 5 losses, that's exactly what they have allowed with 11 rushing touchdowns. So basically averaging a little more than 2 rushing touchdowns per loss and a 5.0 yards per carry average. I think Nebraska needs to commit to the run. They need to run it well, and they need to run it often so that it does open up some opportunities perhaps in the passing game. Also, Wisconsin's best run stopper, Hunter Wohler, might not be available. So run, and run again. No air raid this week. Run the ball. They've got to be able to do that. Must stop the run. It should also be no coincidence that in Wisconsin's 5 losses, they have run for fewer yards than in any of their 5 wins. In those losses, they averaged 3.8 yards per carry versus nearly 5 yards per carry in their wins. Tawee Walker has 773 yards this season. His 2 biggest games are in the Badgers' 2 last wins, Northwestern and the blowout against Rutgers. Outside of the Ohio State game, Nebraska's run defense in this losing streak has allowed 2 more yards per carry than they did during their 5-1 start. If Nebraska's going to win, they cannot let Wisconsin control the clock and get advantageous down in distance with their run game, because if you make Braden Locke throw to beat you, they can't do it. That's really the reason why Wisconsin couldn't pull the upset last week. Locke was not efficient enough to finish those drives. Otherwise, Wisconsin may have pulled that upset. So put all the pressure on Locke to throw, because, and I would add a kind of an additional key in here, I think field position is going to be important in this game. Pin them deep, make Wisconsin drive the long field, because you're playing the odds. If Wisconsin's got to drive the field and they can't consistently get a good running game going, that means Locke's got to complete throws. he barely completes 50% of his throws. So you're asking him to string together a lot of good plays in succession, which he has not been able to do this year. Key number 3 is you got to get out of your own way. Wisconsin does not commit a lot of penalties, just 5 per game. And in a game where I believe field position might be at a premium, free yards are a huge bonus. There have been so many little errors that have occurred to Nebraska during this losing streak. Even think back to last week. I know, what's the difference between a 14-yard play and a 19-yard play? Who knows? But it certainly, would Dylan have benefited from those extra 5 yards on the last play of the game? Possibly. Possibly. So those little things definitely add up. And Saturday is a day to show the home crowd that you are a smart team, that you are a disciplined team. There has been far too little of that in recent weeks. The first step to doing that is stop making the mistakes. And speaking of playing smart, you must play smart. I don't think this is a game to be a gambler or take risks. Again, Wisconsin's offense is not good enough to drive the length of the field. So don't be afraid to play for field position. 4th and short from midfield, it's not going to be a bad idea, in my opinion, to punt the ball, especially if you don't have any rhythm on offense. Punt them deep, make them drive the long way, and dare Braden Locke to beat you. Put him in a hole, and for God's sake, please manage this game smartly, okay? The whole debacle with should we fake it, should we not, then use a timeout. Save those timeouts for crying out loud. Let Boom Sheeny do his thing, pin Wisconsin deep, play a smart game, and don't overthink it. And then finally, this is probably my third most important key. You got to have fun. Nebraska, their biggest issue is not on offense. Their biggest issue is not on defense. Their biggest issue is not on special teams. Their biggest issue is between the ears. They have played with so much pressure. They have played with so much stress, so much anxiety over the course of the last month or so. Go out and have fun, and especially for those seniors, those guys like Ty, those guys like Nash, like Gifford, like Benhart. Go out and play fun. Play for the love of the game. And I think the key to having a 6-win bowl qualification party is to play like you enjoy what you're doing. Don't play with so much stress all the time. Let it hang out. If you can, channel that same feeling, that same mojo, that same drive that you had against Colorado. If you got to get hologram Bud Crawford to lead you onto the field to put you in that mindset, do it. I don't care. But this is the last time for these seniors that you're going to get a chance to play in this place where you have sweat and bled and toiled for the last 1/4 of your lives. Go out and play like you love it, play like you enjoy it, play loose, and play free. And that's our keys and key party to the game. Coming up next, what do we think will happen? Predictions, and we have a new leader.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, finally, I'm back where I belong.
What the hell is happening?
Nick, it was an amazing week. I don't know how you made up so much ground in so little time with so few games, but we'll be back and have our predictions next. It's Unsportsmanlike Conduct just ahead of Creighton, Nebraska women's basketball on 1620 The Zone.
The holidays should be a time of magic and joy for every child. Sadly, for many, those feelings of warmth and wonder seem out of reach. Your generosity can bring smiles and a sense of normalcy to those who need it most. When you donate to Child Saving Institute, you become a substitute Santa and a beacon of hope. Join Child Saving Institute and become a substitute Santa today. Donate now at childsaving.org/substitute Santa.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for predictions.
Over, bet the over. Vikings in the over. Bet the
It was just 2 short weeks ago that Josh was strutting. He was doing a little peacock strut, holding out his chest, and bragging about his big lead.
Big lead.
And then last week, or 2 weeks ago,
Yeah, what in the world happened?
I took a big old bite out of it. And then last week, I took another big old bite out of it. It's like Thanksgiving. It's feast week. It's feast week for your 5-time defending champion. And so this is with 2 weeks to go, because remember, predictions, this round ends next week.
Ooh.
So it's this round and next week, and then this round of predictions is over. I've got a 2-point lead over Josh and Nick. Nick had a good week, but he's way, way, way behind.
I'm about to mount the greatest comeback in the world. Am I mathematically eliminated from the playoffs?
No, because we do so many picks.
We do, but
you're going to have a chance.
I mean, you would have to literally keep track of who's doing what, and it's not going to be easy. Give it your best shot. Speaking of giving it your best shot, that's what Indiana's going to try to do as they travel to Ohio State in the narrative game of this college football season. This line has moved. It has come down since the injuries on the offensive line for Ohio State. It was sitting at around 2 touchdowns when it opened. It is down to 10.5. Indiana at Ohio State. I will take Ohio State. I think they will cover the 10.5.
I am going to agree with you, John. I think that it will be a close game, but I think that Ohio State will ultimately win by a couple of touchdowns.
Now, this is a chance for you to gain a point.
It is. So I don't think Indiana is blind to the discourse that's been surrounding their team over the last few weeks. And I think they're going to come into this with a chip on their shoulder. And I mean, Oregon beat Ohio State. Surely Indiana can do the same thing.
Oh, yeah. When I think of football powers, I think of Indiana and Oregon. All right, you got Indiana. There's a chance for a point. Now, largest lead in this game, over or under 17.5 points? Josh?
Over.
I agree.
I'll take the under.
It would only make sense. I mean, Josh and I are playing with a slim margin if we take the under. So it makes sense. It makes sense. BYU at Arizona State. BYU is +3 coming off their first loss.
The wrong team is favored. Give me the Super Soakers.
You know, Todd yesterday, John, he was talking about this game, and he mentioned that he likes the Sun Devils. I was listening to a different podcast today, and they were like, I like BYU. This line is crazy. I'm going to go with friend of the Grum, Todd Furman. Give me the Sun Devils to win and cover.
I agree. I think Arizona State's a better football team right now. I think the mojo is run out of BYU. Down at Arrowhead Stadium, Colorado, just a 3-point favorite against very plucky Kansas, who maybe all of us, I mean, that pooch punt last week that turned the game around is maybe the mojo that gets Kansas's good luck back on their side. The wrong team is favored. Kansas pulls the upset. Go Rock Chalk.
I mean, Nebraska beat Colorado, and we know how good Nebraska is right now. Give me Kansas.
Wow, okay. I'll go for this point. Give me the Buffs. I think that they win another game, and they do so by 10 or more.
Well, Shadur Sanders have 99.5 more or less passing yards in the total stats versus Jalen Daniels. Who do you like? Which quarterback?
I like Shadur more than Jalen.
Okay. I'm going to go with Daniels.
Okay, I'm going to go with Nick on this one.
Army is a 14.5-point dog at Yankee Stadium against Notre Dame. I hate to do this. I hate to go against our Army. I love our Army, but Notre Dame's playing very, very well right now. I think Army's got to slow this game down, which they will definitely try to do. Covering that number could be a little tight if Army's able to drive the ball, but I think Notre Dame's playing really well right now. I'll take the Irish.
Damn it, I'm with you. I thought that I was going to get an easy point here because you're such a homer for Army.
We should all be homers for Army. They protect our freedoms.
Nice.
John once again proves that he's anti-American. What's more American, John?
Than Notre Dame? I don't know.
Than Army at Yankee Stadium in fall playing football.
People forget that the home team at Yankee Stadium did not win the World Series.
That's true.
Give me our Army.
NFL, the Vikings are a 3.5-point favorite at the Bears.
I think the Bears are a little frisky. Give me the Bears.
Yeah, Nick, I think last night might be the beginning of a strange week in the NFL with the Steelers going on the road and losing. Minnesota does not play well in Chicago. They have really struggled there over, my lifetime. Now I'm guessing some Vikings fans are like, you're an idiot, Josh. The Vikings won last year. And look, maybe they did. But whenever I think of the Vikings playing in Chicago, I think of them losing. I'm going to go with the Bears here. The wrong team is favored.
Ooh, boy, are we all going to agree on taking the underdog here? I agree with Josh. I think the Vikings have been a little struggle bus lately. And I know the Bears aren't great, but they did give Green Bay everything they could handle. I think that hook's important too. I'll take the Bears. Speaking of 3 points in this game, it's a straight 3 points. 49ers +3 at the Green Bay Packers, Josh.
Man, did you listen to the breakdown that they did on Bet the Board this week? It was really interesting. They talked about Robert Saleh going into Green Bay. He is like now a full-time analyst with the organization. And of course that means that in a matchup like this, he knows a lot about the 49ers. And yet, man, I think that the Niners' backs are against the wall. I'm going to bet on Jordan Love maybe making an extra mistake or two along the way. They had that tough win last week on the road. Give me the 49ers again to cover and to win the game outright.
I like Jordan Love. Give me the Packers.
I'm going to roll with San Francisco. They tend to play well at Lambeau, and I think Green Bay is a little. They take a lot of chances. I mean, they have really been. I mean, they should have lost last week. They were fortunate, got the blocked field goal, but they should have lost last week in a game they probably should have won easier than they did. I'll go with the 49ers. NFC West battle. Cardinals are at the Seahawks. Cardinals are favored by a point.
Every time I've picked against the Cardinals, they've won.
Hmm.
But I'm with Josh.
Yeah, you keep making the same joke here. You going to make the joke again, Nick?
I'm not going to make that joke again, but that's just because I agree with Josh. All season he's been saying the Seahawks are going to make a run, and yes, I agree with Josh.
Wait, so you're picking the Seahawks?
I'm picking the Seahawks.
Oh, interesting. We disagree here. Give me the Cardinals. I think that they're actually the best team in the NFC West, and I'm hopping off of my Seahawks bandwagon, Nick. I think the Cards are going to be the team to win the division.
Oh, wow.
I think the Cardinals are trash. The Seahawks
Nice.
are also trash.
So you picking
both
a
of these
tie?
garbage franchises, but I think Cardinals are playing better than Seattle. I will take Arizona. The Har Bowl on Monday night. The Ravens are a 3-point favorite at the Chard.
We're watching this together, John, in Vegas.
I'm going to go with the good Harbaugh. Give me John Harbaugh and the Ravens.
Nick?
Yeah, the Ravens are better than the Chargers.
Give me the Chargers to cover.
You
the
would
3
say
points.
that.
Let's go. Hey, Nick, go Chargers, go.
Harpilled.
You and who's go Chargers, go. I told you in the offseason and you wouldn't listen. Look at them now, Nick. Look at them now. Go Chargers, go.
Dante Dowdell rushing yards over under 45.5. I think this is going to be more of an Emmett Johnson day. Under.
I'll take the over.
Here's what he's done in the last 3 games. 52, 61, 60. He only had 16 versus Indiana, but he had 57 before that versus Rutgers. The Wisconsin rushing defense, as we talked about yesterday, is taking a bit of a step back this year. Give me the over on this prop.
Who leads Nebraska in receiving yards?
John?
I'm going to go with Nair.
Man. I'm going to go with the librarian. Give me Shush Boy himself, Thomas Fedoni.
I am going to go with Barney.
All right, we got all 3 different. Wisconsin's third down conversions, will they be over or under 38%? They have been under 38% in all of their losses. Under.
Ooh. Nebraska in recent weeks has allowed their opponents to convert 46.15. Ohio State only went 1 for 10, but the week before that versus Indiana, it was 55.6% on third down. The trend is that Nebraska has allowed for a higher number. I'm going to go slightly over the 38% for Wisconsin.
I will also take the over.
Point for me. Will either team make a field goal of 50 or more yards, Josh?
It's not supposed to be windy tomorrow, right, in Lincoln? Wisconsin has done this multiple times throughout the season, their kicker has. Nebraska's John Hull, he made the 50-plus yarder versus Ohio State. I'm going to say yes.
I'll go with a yeah.
I say no.
Ooh.
Upset of the week. Last week, nobody got a point.
That has to be a first time all year, right?
I believe it is. There were a couple of interesting games to choose from, but I am going to go to the Swamp and take the Florida Gators plus 11.5 versus Ole Miss.
Line's moving. I'm going to go with a game in the same time. Give me SMU going on the road at Virginia. I'll take the Cavs plus 10.5.
I'm going to go with the game happening tonight.
Oh.
I think San Jose State is going to overtake UNLV. That's plus 7.5.
All right.
Nick, I thought about that one.
Now, Creighton versus Nebraska. The only way to get the point is by getting both games correctly. So give me the women's game winner and the men's game winner. Again, the only way you get the point is if both are correct.
Wow, you're having the broadcasters pick the games that they're about to call. Hopefully no one in the arena, as I look around, hopefully no one's listening to their radio right now because I'm going to go with Nebraska, the women, and then I'll go with the Creighton men tonight.
Same. Nebraska women, Creighton men.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, it's a sweep.
Okay, well, that was boring.
Yeah, I thought maybe someone would take the bait. Who's going to be the overall leading scorer in the men's game? That's overall, meaning both teams. So who will have the most points? Obviously, if there's a tie at top and you have that person, you will get the point.
Bryce Williams.
I'm going to take Kalkbrenner.
I'm also going to take Kalkbrenner.
And finally, the Nebraska football game prediction. Nebraska 1.5 point favorite, 42.5 is the total versus the Wisconsin Badgers. Nick, what do you say?
I say 21-17 Wisconsin.
Oh God, pain for all. Speaking of pain, John, I've spoken multiple times in the last couple of weeks about the famed, never forgotten Nebraska-Kansas State game from 2005. Harrison Beck came out onto the field. Nebraska was on a 3-game losing streak. Zach Taylor gets hurt. Harrison Beck comes onto the field. I believe that there was a roughing the passer along the way as he set Nebraska up. Jordan Congdon for a game-winning field goal, and Nebraska left Memorial Stadium victorious, 27-25. It moved them to 6-4. A couple weeks later, they went on the road in Boulder. They restored the order. They won by 27. Then they played Michigan in the Alamo Bowl. They beat them by 4 points, and that is why I'm going to go with Wisconsin tomorrow, 27-25, the exact same score, but a reverse scenario where they get a walk-off field goal, and Connor Happer and I begin Bigger Overreaction live from Cross Train in terrible, terrible moves.
What a weird roundabout way to get to your score pick.
You made... Okay, John just made a face where it looked like he was sucking on a lemon.
Well,
Because I sent him the score earlier, and I bet he was thinking, wait a second, did Josh write down the wrong score?
No. Well, anyway. You idiots.
Wow.
Josh and Nick, you ignorant sluts. I'm going to go. Nebraska's going to win this game. Wisconsin will not be able to drive the field and get scores against Nebraska. Nebraska's going to take advantage of at least one Braden Locke interception. And a goofy puke game deserves a goofy puke score. Nebraska 19, Wisconsin 8.
Oh, my gosh,
we're
that'd be
going
hilarious.
to Detroit, Rock City, baby. We're going to lose our minds in Detroit, Rock City. We're going bowling in the Motor City.
Is that a Nebraska scorigami?
Could be. Probably.
Goofy score.
I think so. Dave Fight, let us know. Dave Fight, if you're listening right now, let us know.
I was thinking about maybe going like 6-5, but I thought, nah. I think Nebraska's going to take advantage of a turnover, 19-8. Huskers win. Right. Go bowling, and next week won't be nearly as stressful.
All right.
Yeah, and it'll be a short week, and we'll be in Las Vegas.
We will be in Las Vegas. In fact, the next time you hear from us outside of basketball broadcasts,
yes,
it'll be from Circa in Old Town Las Vegas.
Hell yeah, it will.
You know what's going to be fun to do next week, Nick?
Yes, Josh?
What's for dinner live from Las Vegas, because we're going to have so many things on the docket that we're going to get to enjoy together.
I'm excited for all the things on the docket.
Oh, the docket.
All right, well, that'll do it for the Grum. Coming up next, it's Rivalry Day. First up, Creighton versus Nebraska, the women's game. Josh has got the call here right after this break. Then later tonight, after an abbreviated Blue Jay shoot-around, yours truly and Tyler Clement will have the men's game, 6:30 pregame from courtside, 7 o'clock tip-off. Enjoy your I-80 Rivalry Day. Enjoy this great sports weekend, and we'll talk to you later next week from the Sin City.
John, have a great call tonight.
And you do the same coming up next. 1620 The Zone.